Now I'm going to import the design again. I've still got my same machine and my same hoop. And I'm going to bring in a design, and I want, there it is. And we're going to look at this and turn it into a fill design. Now, using the width and height boxes here on the second icon toolbar, I'm now going to reduce the size of the design. 130. And of course it does it both the height and the width, and hit enter. Now I'm going to bring in another artwork image. Here we go, baby bundle. I'm not resizing this one, I'm just going to put it over to one side and we're going to look at it. Now most of these didn't come up very clear, but I'm showing you this because it makes it easier if you have an idea in your head of what you want to do. Now, you'll see on the baby I've got a fill angle. I don't know what it is, but that's the fill angle I'm going to use. Here on the inside of the cloth I've got little lines showing me fill angle, and this will be digitized separate from this one, and this one you can see I've got lines for the fill angle. I go to the beak and you can see I've got zigzag. I may not be able to use it. It will depend on what width the beak is. Then on the head I've just got a fill angle and I've got a break there. Then I've got the neck and I've kind of separated that from the body, and I've separated the body from the tail and the top of the legs. On this back wing I've put in fill angles, and I'll be using the same fill angle that I put in here for this and this. On this one I've got fill angles, because one of the beauties of Hatch is we can add angles. Then each of the feathers has a line showing the angle I want the feathers to run at, and the same with the tail. Now the legs are a little bit spindly, so even though I've shown a couple of angles, I'm not too certain how I want to work that, because we've got a little thing called pull, and I don't really want it pulling in so these end up looking like string. For instance, this poor stork would fall over because the lower part of his leg is actually fatter than the upper part. And then I have a fill angle running across the feet. So I've divided up the areas, and each of them can have their own fill angles. Now before we start digitizing, we're going to look at software settings, and we're going to look at auto fabrics, and we're going to find the terry toweling. Now I don't want the stretch terry toweling, I want the standard terry toweling, and we're going to create our own custom terry toweling. based on the program's terry toweling. I can tell that OK. Now, because I want to kill some of the loops, I'm going to shorten that stitch length to 3.5. But I'm going to increase the stitch spacing to 0.43. Underlay type, I would like edge run and tatami. Edge run 2.2 is fine. Stitch spacing, that's for layer 2. Layer 2, I'm going to shorten that to 2.8. Stitch spacing 2.5. Pull comp, now it only goes up to 30, but you can make it any size you like. Okay, now I'm going to move on. Wide satin. Auto spacing, no. I want that up to 110. I may even have to reset that. Edge run and double zigzag 2.8. Spacing 2.5. Pull comp, there's not so much pull on a satin stitch as there is on a weave fill. It's only got 2 needle penetrations, one side, other side. So I'm going to put that up to 0.4. Narrow setting, or rather narrow satin, depends how narrow it is. I'm going to put centre and edge run. Lettering, I'll put it up to 100%. Now the stabilizer. Topping, solvent film, tear away. No! Tear away does exactly that. Doesn't provide sufficient strength to prevent the fabric, which is your loose woven terry toweling, and it is a loose weave, no matter how thick and luxurious it might feel, it needs a cutaway. So I'm going to type in medium cutaway and tell that OK. Tell that close. Go back, manage auto fabrics and choose custom terry toweling. Where is it gone? There it is. OK, that's what I'm going to use. Now, I know people like the back of their towels to look ultra pretty, and they don't want chunks of cutaway. But if you don't use a cutaway and you use a tearaway, the qualities of tearaway makes it easy to rip away from a design. And every time a needle goes into that piece of tearaway, it breaks it down a bit more and a bit more and a bit more until eventually there's nothing there to prevent your stitching totally pulling up and exposing all your underlay. Now, if you really don't want to see a cutaway on the back of a piece of toweling, make an applique of your design. Stitch it on a piece of cotton, cut it out carefully, stick it on top of your towel, and then sew around it. Then you haven't got what everybody considers to be an ugly cutaway on the back. But without that cutaway, a couple of washes and your design will lose all its integrity. Right, now, so where do we start? Well, we don't need this big area of blue. It was useful for doing an embossed design, but for a fill design, it isn't as useful. Now I'm going to move this down so I can see it and make it just a little bit smaller and put it down here. There we go. And I think the first thing that should go in is the babby. Right, now down here, I know you used a single colour, so I'm going to go with a single colour as well. And you can see then how the different fills and the fill angles have an effect on the design because of the different textures you can get and in general what you can do. And I don't really want hatch colours. Right, now I've just opened up my threads here. I tapped the little cotton reel down in the corner and I'm going to highlight that top little line, and it brings up the thread that I mainly use, Madeira Poly Neon. So I tell that OK. I come back over and I'm going to click on what looks like to me little paint pot tins, and that now changes these from hatch to Madeira Poly Neon. But there's a particular red that I want and it's not at the bottom, so I'm going to find that particular red because I'm so used to digitizing with a red thread. Anything else throws me for a curveball. No, that's Rose 1838. Now I just hit add and there it is, and there it is in my colour thumbnail bottom right. What number are you? 1838. I had already got the colour, so I highlight that one and I tell it remove. I don't need you after all. OK, so I click on number 6 and it won't change because I got rid of it once. There we go, now it's changed. I had this highlighted. So now I'm going to go to digitize. Digitized closed shape. Tatami. And when you digitize, you always have to give yourself overlaps and underlaps. I'm going to start here. Otherwise you end up with gapsiosis. He looks like he's got a little horn on his head. Didn't bring that last note down far enough. Okay, take that out of True View, reshape. There is my stitching arrow, and I've just done the wrong image. Maggie, you are a twazzock. You really are. That's the one I'm working on. So I highlight that and I move it. No, not you. Lock. Thank you. I highlight that. And I'm going to diminish my screen a bit using my center scroll wheel. Move that up here. And then I do love these control handles. I just move that up a touch. Okay, now while the baby is highlighted, I'm going to use the carving stamp. So I tap on it and I tell it digitize. It tells me to start digitizing. So I'm going to move in . Okay. One click simply sets the nodes. And then this line on his ear. Now I tap twice. Those are my carving lines, but they won't appear in my stitching if I don't tell them stamp. Now you can't see anything in, I call this digitizing mode. If I go to True View, there they are. Looks like a little demon, doesn't he? So back out to True View. Okay. Now where's my end point? Over here. I don't want it over there. I want it up over here. So I tell it reshape, and I move that up to there, and I tell that stop. Right, now I go and pick up my digitized closed shape again. Now you'll see I've got a red cross and I've got a white cross. The white cross marks the last stitch. The red cross marks the end of the tie stitch. I want the white cross. I don't want any tie stitches. And I'm coming in, overlapping the area I have already digitized. Up into his beak. Down into here. And then close that up. Now let's look at that. Difference in fill angles demarcates different objects. Now this one tells me I had that kind of angle, and that's not what I've got there. So I highlight nothing. I tell that stop, and I'm looking on my keyboard for the stop button, and of course it's not there. I come out of True View and I go select this, tell it reshape, and I'm going to ask that to finish up here. Thank you. And then I'm going to change the fill angle if I could see it. There it is there. And move that. That's too close to that one. Right, let me see how that looks in True View. That's okay. And then tell that stop. Then come out of True View and do this part, but I want this part to finish up here. So perhaps I'll highlight that again, tell it reshape, move this one down to the beginning. Now that the end point is down here, I can run a travel line around to where I want to be, which is up in there. So I'm going to tell this stop and go and pick up my digitize open shape, and just run a line round to where I want it to go. In there. Now I have no idea how long I have been talking. My son left to go to Indonesia today, and he's been ringing me all day just to check and see that I'm fine. In other words, he's bored of hanging around in an airport. So of course I've been pausing the video, starting again, and completely lost touch with where I am. So I'm going to finish this here, and in the next video we will put this part of the nappy sling.